Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Case file number 849, written by Pepcac. I saw my grandma in another universe. I was down the shore with my grandma, and I came home from the beach. I went in the front door and it was unlocked, but I didn't see my grandma in her customary seat on the couch to the left of the door. I glanced at the totally bare and empty kitchen table. Then I figured she was in the bathroom, so I walked into the back of the house to just call out that I'm here so she doesn't get scared about hearing the door opening. As I walked into her bedroom, I saw my grandmother laying on the floor between her bed and the wall, wearing a blue sweatshirt and jeans. She looked like she fell, but her face was between laughing, like, whoopsie, I fell, and pain. I took exactly 2 steps towards her and blinked, and she was gone. I started to panic a bit and checked out the bathroom for her anyway, for no other reason than I thought, well, that's where I was heading in the first place. She wasn't there. I ran out of the back room to the front of the house again, and I saw on the kitchen table a very bright neon pink something there. I went over and picked it up. It was a note from my grandma saying she ran over to the neighbor's house and that she'd be back in a couple of hours. I called her cell phone and she answered and confirmed that's where she was. I don't know what or who it was that I saw, because when my grandma did come home, she was wearing the same clothes that whatever I saw in the bedroom was wearing. Case file number 849. I saw my grandma in another universe. So possibly related to buffered reality, you just saw a scene from the future, something that will happen but hasn't yet. I'm not as inclined to believe that, mainly because you mentioned that your grandma was wearing the same thing you saw in the bedroom when it was just a vision, as when she came home. So my gut is that there was some sort of astral projection involved, maybe even as a subconscious soul-linked defense mechanism. Maybe your grandma did fall over at her neighbor's house in the same orientation and everything, but it wasn't really a grave thing. She was in some pain, but overall just an accident and she's okay. I don't know if you asked her if she did fall over, but that's my gut instinct, is that your grandma has some sort of soul guard in place. So if something bad happens to her, she will appear to you, and maybe to others as well, as a sort of a metaphysical SOS. It's kind of cool, very powerful and protective. I like that idea. Creepy file number 67, written by Anonymous Girl. The Gift of Fear. This story happened about 6 years ago now, but still makes me wonder what would have happened if I didn't follow my gut instinct. I've always been very aware of my surroundings. Growing up, my parents and grandparents always instilled in my sister and I to be well aware of your surroundings, especially when you're alone, and to follow your gut instinct if you feel like the situation you're in is off. Because of this, I've always left situations I felt a bad vibe from, no matter if things didn't seem too strange to others. Why take the risk? I feel like your body knows what's up even if you can't see it. So anyways, fast forward to this day. I never finished high school, so I was doing a program at a college in order to get a certificate that was equivalent to a high school diploma in order to get into college. The college I was doing the program at was in the same city as me. However, I didn't have a car nor drove, so I had to take the bus to and from classes when I had them. Usually the bus ride altogether took about 45 minutes, and I had to transfer onto a second bus at one point. Up until this point, nothing weird or bad had ever happened to me while on my journey to classes. On this particular day, I had finished my classes and was waiting for the first bus to go home. Since my classes weren't regular classes, I usually finished before most of the students in the actual college courses got out. I only had 1 or 2 classes a day, which meant most of the time there weren't too many others waiting for the bus at the same time as me. The bus I was waiting for finally pulls up, and I get on as usual. I grab a seat at the front of the bus and notice there's absolutely no one else on the bus but me, so I get happy knowing there won't be many stops on my ride home and therefore I'll get there quicker. About 2 stops later, the bus stops and a male passenger gets on. I think nothing of it at first, and I'm still glad there's only one other person, because it'll be a quick ride. As the man walks to take a seat on the bus, instead of sitting on the opposite side or the back, he sits right beside me, not even a seat over, literally right beside me. Now I'm thinking this is strange, because usually when I get on the bus, if there's plenty of empty seats, I won't pick a seat right next to someone. I usually enjoy sitting by myself, listening to music on the ride, so I decided to get up and go to the back of the bus. While I'm sitting in the back, listening to music, the male passenger keeps staring at me every few seconds, and it's starting to make me feel uneasy. Up until this point, I didn't really have any alarm bells going off in my head, but the more he kept looking at me, the more I started to get bad vibes. I eventually started having a really strong gut feeling like I needed to get off the bus. I can't describe it, but the bad vibes I was getting were making me feel super uneasy. I decided I was going to get off at the next intersection where a stop was, just in case he decided to do anything or follow me. At least I wouldn't be on a side street alone with no one there. So the next intersection stop is coming up, and I press the button on the bus to be let off. As the bus is about to pull over and stop, I get up to walk to the door and notice the male passenger get up too. I think that's really weird. I decided to get off the front of the bus by the driver versus the back, and the male passenger got off with me. At this point, I'm freaked out and walk ahead a bit and notice he follows me. The bus is at a red light at the stop and the doors are still open, so I decide to get back onto the bus thinking this man won't follow me. Wrong. He follows me back onto the bus. At this point, I'm really freaked out, and the bus driver closes the doors to drive away. I immediately say, "Sorry, I gotta get off at this stop." And he opens them again, and I notice the male passenger is again about to get up to get off with me. Thankfully, the bus driver closed the doors and drove off. I don't know if he knew the man was following me and decided to not let him off, or if he just wanted to drive away now. But as the bus pulled away, I noticed the man who followed me standing at the front of the bus staring back at me. At this point, I'm glad he's away from me, but I decide not to wait for the next bus because I don't know if this man was going to get off at the next stop and come walk back to the stop I was at and see me again. I ended up calling my mom to come pick me up. I'm glad my gut instinct knew something was up, and I got off the bus before he followed me all the way home. Because I live on a side street that's about a 7-minute walk from the bus stop, so who knows what would have happened. So, sketchy man on the bus, let's not meet again. Case notes for the creepy file number 67, The Gift of Fear. I read a book recommendation called The Gift of Fear, so I titled the story that. Fear isn't just this thing that we should get rid of. It's kind of like pain. It's a signal. And it's our subconscious in this case, telling us that things aren't right. It's not always accurate. Maybe it'll jump the gun a bit in some cases. But I think often it is very accurate. So trusting your gut is always a good idea. As they say, it's better safe than sorry, right? But in the book specifically, it says that violence is very predictable. The signs that lead up to it they're not exactly unambiguous. They're pretty clear. And in this case, specific to your story, they weren't even red flags. They were giant neon glowing signs of redness, everything that could be off about this guy was off. I mean, it's almost impossible that he wasn't trying to do something to you because he kept getting on and off with you and also sitting right next to you. I mean, he wasn't even a good predator too, Why be so obvious? It's just, yeah, at least it's good when bad people are dumb because then they're kind of easy to avoid. It's when bad people are actually smart and clever that you have to be very well on guard. We should all be very thankful for this gift of fear.